Fantasy managers, welcome back to another installment of the FPL Addicts Gameweek review show. It's me, Rev, and the inimitable Chazza Roberts, bringing you all the latest from Fantasy Premier League this week. We're going to go through some of the highlights, some of the teams and the assets from Game Week 8, which could hopefully help us with our Game Week 9 dilemmas. You know, if you are new around here, please do give our podcast or our video a little bit of love. You know, you can do that by hitting the like button, or if you're on YouTube, you can hit the subscribe button to make sure that you don't miss out on future content. And if you're listening on the podcast, do give us a little bit of a review. That would be much appreciated. Big thank you to all of those who are already in the chat. Reedy is working today, but he's here. He's here having a good time with us as we review the game week. But first of all, let's hear from a man who is as brilliant as he is Australian, and he is very Australian. Welcome, Chazza, mate. How are you today?
Good evening from where I am, and just good afternoon from where you are, Mr. Rev, the man himself. And my first question is, what on earth does imitable mean? I've never heard of that word in my life.
Inimitable. It means you cannot be imitated.
No, I'm not sure about that. We'll see how this episode goes.
It means there's no one like you. There's no one like you, mate.
Okay, well, I might get intimidated once we talk about a certain someone from Tottenham. That's the best way to put it. But it's fantastic to be on here. I heard you had to find someone to volunteer as tribute at this point of day, and here I am, looking forward to it. They're condensed 7 games, so it means you won't have to listen to me as much for this review edition. But as I said, I'm looking forward to get cracking into it.
Exactly, mate. And as you can see here, we've got some of the results from Game Week 8. And there's been quite a few games, quite a few standout results, and also quite a few standout performances there. Chazza, which of those results to you stand out particularly?
Stand out. I think it would be. Geez, this is tough. I'm only going for Spurs Leicester just. It's a hard one to pick, in fairness. I think Arsenal's win was really good, but Spurs scoring 6, especially a certain Korean magician scoring a hat-trick off the bench.
Yeah.
That is something I haven't seen in a very long time. I'm not sure about you.
Yeah, so let's go there first then. So with Spurs versus Leicester, obviously the first big talking point is Son. He comes on, and within 13 minutes, he's bagged the hattie. His celebration for me was so cold. Like when he scored, like an absolute screamer. I don't know about you, mate, but on the rare occasion that I do score in football, I go absolutely mental. I start running around, but he just stood there, you know, and it was one of those. He was kind of silencing the doubters. He did have a bit of a goal drought, and the fact that he just stood there, like, for me, it said a lot. It said a lot. But for you, in terms of your FPL team, you did take him out of your team 2 weeks ago, and that's got to hit. That's got to hurt.
It does hurt, and it also hurts that the Queen died, because it means we didn't have a game week. So it was just 2 weeks of all of that pain, which was heavily. It just increased from the usual 1 week rest.
Yeah,
it was due for him. I felt watching the highlights against Fulham, he could have had probably 3 to 4 returns. He was so close. He hit the woodwork on 2 occasions, from what I can recall.
He did.
2. And Leicester presented as a really good opposition for him to get his season going. And it's exactly what transpired. However, the decision to bench him wouldn't prove much of an indication that would have been the case.
Yeah. I think sometimes players like that just need a poke. They need a bit of a prod. And so I think by benching a player like Son, it really does send a message, not just to Son, but to the whole team that like no one is undroppable. And so, when he came on, he had to perform. He had to get the bit between his teeth. And he really showed that hunger and that desire that maybe he's just been lacking for the past 7 game weeks. I don't know. Like I think maybe he's been unlucky for sure. But this is football. You've got to do the business. You have to stick the ball in the back of the net. And I know it sounds a bit cringe and a bit cliche to say that, but he's a forward. He's got to come up with the goods. And over those past 7 game weeks, that one is it just one singular assist?
It was the one singular
One
assist
singular
in the
assist
first 7 game weeks, from what I can recall.
It just
No,
wasn't
6
enough.
it would have been, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And
not
so,
enough for
yeah.
premium such as him, and that's why I sort of had to let go. But for a second, I thought Sam would have been playing his game week 7 fixture at the time I got rid of him. But then he faced Leicester, and he all of a sudden went Bain and bringing in. We'll get to Man City shortly. Kevin De Bruyne, which look 2 assists is okay, but when you look at it from a grand scheme of comparisons, it's substantially not enough.
Yeah. So, but before we move on from the Spurs Leicester game, I just want to point out another player, which was Perisic. Oh my goodness! So I'm a very unfortunate Perisic owner, and I saw him getting the assist, which was great, by the way. I feel like they did really well, from those set pieces to cause Leicester, who are famously weak from set pieces, to cause them some problems. But you can imagine my shock, Chazza, when I look at my points from Perisic this week, and he was on a 2-pointer, and I was like, "What? How on earth has that happened?" So not only did he get subbed off, when he had been subbed off, he got involved in a bit of argy-bargy, and the referee booked him whilst he was on the bench.
That is absolutely crazy.
Oh yeah, so it's a bit of an absurdity, and I think going forward, the fact that Perisic is just like he's a bit of a minutes concern anyway, because he does always get either subbed on or subbed off. For me, it's one of those that I can't really justify maybe having him in my team much more. But anyway, probably a bit more on that when we're going to preview our game week 9 teams in an upcoming pod. So make sure people subscribe if they want to hear what the FPL Addicts are doing going forward in game week 9. The last player I want to highlight from Leicester is James Maddison. It was about the only player that maybe looked bothered from Leicester, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but I think Brendan Rodgers needs to do something drastic, or he's going to lose that dressing room for sure. James Maddison with a well taken goal, and also has very, very good fixtures going forward. So my eye is definitely on James Maddison going forward. Is he on your radar, Chazza?
He is. I did briefly look upon him as a way to use one of my free transfers, but with 3 consecutive blanks prior to this game, the confidence in him, let alone any Leicester players, were relatively thin. I feel another big takeaway out of this too. This may have been occurring for quite a while now, just due to Jamie Vardy's age, but Yuri Tielemans is also their penalty taker. So he's not with Maddison. And I haven't really seen Maddison. He's not all renowned to be a penalty taker. He's more of a free kick taker and one of our attacking specialists, Leicester.
Yeah, so Yuri Tielemans again, like as an option from that team, like in a team where the options are thin. I mean, if I wanted to, I couldn't bring in Maddison and and Yuri Tielemans, because I am one of those unfortunate suckers who still have Ward and Iverson. So I am capped at my Leicester player limit, unfortunately. But anyway, moving on. Another game that kind of stood out to me was a real test for the Premier League leaders, which is Brentford versus Arsenal. We have Saliba, Jesus, and also
Saliba. Carry on.
Saliba. Yeah, man. I'm a Saliba owner, so was obviously incredibly happy to be on the receiving end of his points there. And yes, people in the chat loving the Saliba chance from Chaza. Vieira looked good. Vieira did look good. I think with Martin Odegaard having some injury concerns, it's great that they can just get a like for like replacement. And did you see Vieira's goal, Chaza?
In fairness,
on the highlights,
I probably didn't because I was watching the Brownlow, which is the footy, the Aussie rules highest individual on a night.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I was on the wrong side of a multitasking perspective on that end. However, when I did check the lineup for a second, I thought Crystal Palace secretly sacked their manager in Patrick Vieira. He was coming back out of retirement and just playing a game for us for a laugh. But from what I heard, it's been all very good for Vieira.
Yeah, I mean, and if you haven't seen those highlights, I definitely recommend going checking that out, because it was an absolute delightful goal to watch. Yeah, Evan there saying my pronunciation of Jesus or Jesus, however you want to say it. But either way, it's Scouse, so it probably doesn't make sense regardless. So yeah, those free play. It was a real test for Arsenal, I felt, because they got humbled versus Man United. You know, we won't go on too much about that Man United game because we don't want Jack Gillas to be, you know, too happy about the All United game, and we don't want to be reminding them of victories for Manchester United too much. But for them coming against Brentford, a team that they've struggled against in the past, by the way, a team that they really haven't done the business against. This time, it was one of the most dominating performances I've maybe ever seen in the Premier League. I've never seen a team hush a crowd that much the way that Arsenal hushed the Brentford crowd. They just didn't give them a sniff the entire game. And last time these two teams played, Ivan Toney was on the Victoria side, and he tweeted out, "Nice kickabout with the boys this afternoon." And this time after the game, you know, the Arsenal lads, they clearly were riled up before the game, and they were rallied by these tweets, because a lot of them were tweeting, just had a nice kickabout with the boys, which was clearly a reference to Ivan Toney's post-match banter last time around. But Arsenal, looking forward, do you reckon they've still got it in them to keep it going, Chazza, even though their fixtures turn?
I feel it's probably worthy of having one Arsenal asset. It's a bit of a surprise sort of game, because if you played this game 5 game weeks ago, Martinelli probably would have had a double-digit haul, but he was the one that surprisingly blanked in this one. But there has been a guy that is slowly starting to get a season going, and he wasn't all that serviceable when he was in my side, but you could understand his price range and what he's capable of. That is Bukayo Saka. Started off, would have been an assist against Villa, got his goal at Old Trafford, and then 2 assists against Brentford. So the confidence is with him right now. And Jesus got his needed goal too. It was a nice finish too. I just felt he needed it just to stay relevant in a lot of fantasy sides.
Yeah, for sure. I think, and that's one of the things about Bukayo Saka, is that he's just doing it quietly. You know, he's ticking over in the background. He's obviously not, you know, hitting the dizzy heights of, you know, Odegaard a couple of weeks ago, where he got 2 goals in a game. But, you know, Bukayo Saka's ticking over and maybe growing in confidence as well. So hopefully we might see a bit more from him. And then the last thing, the last match that I really would like to highlight is my beloved Everton.
The Toffees, baby.
Yes, up the Toffees. Can I just say, Chazza, and like as an Everton fan, I don't really get to say this ever out loud. I mean, I can do it on FIFA or Footy Manager, but Everton actually got a clean sheet again. Again, is that word again? Like every once in a blue moon, we might get a clean sheet, but the fact that we've got 2 clean sheets in a row, just for me, mate, is just it's just so beautiful.
It is. And with that saying, I think it gives a good excuse to talk about Patterson, one of the Everton defenders who started off as a £4 million budget option, and he's got back-to-back clean sheets. One which did come unlikely against Liverpool, considering Liverpool just kept firing shots at Jordan Pickford, and Pickford was probably by far man of the match. But when you consider Everton's games, the 3 before they played Liverpool, I felt they were bound to keep a clean sheet because there were 2 games where they conceded goals within the last 10 minutes, especially against Nottingham Forest. They conceded in the second half against Leeds United. So, and then there was a game against Brentford too, which they conceded with 6 minutes to go.
Yeah, and so the real difference between those games and the last 2 games has been the addition of Everton's brand new defensive midfield assets. So we re-signed Idrissa Gana Gueye from PSG, and he was absolutely immense. He was absolutely immense. Absolutely dominated that midfield. His tackles, his interceptions, and his work rate off the ball as well is something that we haven't really seen from Everton defensive midfielders. And Eben there in the chat with a wonderful stat has said, to be fair to Everton, we've only conceded 6 goals so far. And 3 of the top 6 have conceded more. So I think Frank Lampard personally is doing absolute bits. He's doing absolute bits. He's a manager that, for me, I don't know, Chazza, what do you think about Frank Lampard? But he's a manager that I think just gets a really disproportionate amount of hate from other teams' fans, where the Everton fans, we just love him.
I feel it's best to start from the back, and it's what Everton are intending to do to start the season. But I was really impressed with the way Everton played in the back half of last season to keep their survival hopes alive, and especially their home games, they turned into a complete different level compared as opposed to their home games generally. And that's what Frank Lampard does need to bring back into the side, and also the Everton players themselves.
Yeah, and so moving forward into Everton's revived defense, there are you could take anyone from that Everton back 4. You could take Mikalenko, who's looking like he's playing quite advanced. We are solid, but the wing backs in Mikalenko and Patterson, that they're being allowed to go forward. I think Tarkowski as well was amazing. How many points did Tarkowski get this week? Well, I feel like he did quite well anyway. But it's just one of those that Tarkowski and Cody with Patterson and Mikalenko. That's just a really solid back 4, and for our FPL teams, I think you could do a lot worse than taking on any of those players.
Tarkowski got 8 points.
Yeah, 8 points. It's amazing.
And he's less than 1% owned.
Yeah, and is he 4.4 million?
Yeah, he still is.
4.4 million. Absolute bargains there in the Everton defense fantasy managers. Go and take your pick, because Everton have got Idrissa Gueye and Onana. Onana, what's his name?
What's my name? Oh no! Oh, what's my name? What's my name? What's my name?
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And so with those 2 just hanging out in front of the defense, it's just been. We've looked super solid since they came in, and as you rightly pointed out before they came in, just looked unnecessarily leaky. So, yeah, scoring goals, as Evan says, is rightly our issue. But we did have Mopé, just a wonderfully taken goal on the turn, kind of on the half volley, just sneaking it in at Fabianski's near post. It was a great goal. It was a great goal from him, but I think he is a bit of a minutes concern because I just don't know when Dominic Calvert-Lewin is going to be back. He's got Poppadom legs, hasn't he?
He does. I think the next time we'll see him is during the 1980s fashion model roulette on the Sky Sports studio.
Yeah, he does. He does like it. His fashion,
Indeed.
for sure.
That's good. So great win by the Toffees. I'm not really the host of this episode, but I'm just going to keep the agenda running to the other games.
Yeah, indeed.
Just want to say quickly, there was a comment from FPL Addicts Jack for me to say, if you're new around here, make sure you drop us a like, jump in the comments, and please subscribe so you don't miss an upload from the panel, which tonight only has a third consisted of. So there's 2 of a possible 6, but that's all from Goodison Park. Sorry, Rev, I've taken your job. I find it pretty
funny.
Great,
mate. Go for it.
Yeah, that's right. It makes it easier for you. Which game would you like to go next? Help yourself. No, actually, I'm going to choose it. We're going to go to Nordic Meat Shield territory. Wolves against Man City. It is. So a complete dominant display yet again from City. Haaland with his inevitable goal. Some goals too from Jack Grealish and Phil Foden, the winners themselves, and Kevin De Bruyne with a pair of assists. It's safe to say it's been a lackluster start for Wolves, but Man City keep their dominant run going.
Yeah, and I think the thing that we saw from Wolves was a bit of, well, it can only be really described as karate. That in that Collins got a red card for a challenge that I have never seen before. It was shades of Roy Keane on Erling Haaland's dad. Back in the day, it was just a straight up flying kick, and so that did put Wolves down to 10 men, and Man City don't need any invitation to dominate possession, and so with 10 men, it's always going to be even harder than it already is. And so Jack Grealish was on the receiving end of that. He does do well to draw in fouls, and Jack Grealish did get his goal as well. My hot tip of the week as well paid off. So one of the things that I do with Jack Gillers is I pre-record a little hot tip of the week, and my hot tip of the week this week was to bring in Phil Foden because he was rested in the Champions League game. So I think, he was set for a bit of an extended run of starts, and obviously there he gets his goals, which makes me feel kind of good because I'm not great at taking my own advice. I didn't bring him in myself. I had other fires to put out this week. However, he did come in, and again, he did the business. And so I think he's one to keep an eye on for sure.
Well, Rev, before you go, or before we roll on,
there's
just been this thing stuck in my head for the last 60 seconds. So I'm just going to say, Nathan Collins was kung fu fighting. Nathan Collins was kung fu fighting.
It was like something out of the Power Rangers, mate. It was like a flying kick to the hip. I was just like, my jaw was to the floor. I couldn't quite believe what was happening. Oh yeah. And speaking of things that we can't believe that are reality, we are going to move on to our next little section. We're going to have a little section that I like to call expectation versus reality. So we're going to review certain players. We're going to put them under the spotlight. We're going to look at their expected data from this week and look at the reality of what they were able to achieve. And so, this man needs no introduction. And I'm going to just pull up this slide myself here so that I can see. So just for the people who are listening along on the podcast, or also for the people in the chat who don't know what these numbers mean. So here we've got expected assists per 90, XAP 90, then expected goals per 90. Then we've got XP, which is expected points. that he was expected to get this week, and then his expected minutes. And then on the right, we've got the reality. So on the left, we've got the expectation. On the right is the reality, which is which is assists per 90 and then goals per 90, the points that they actually got and the minutes that they actually played. So with HeungMin, his expectation and his reality in this game week have really leveled out. So previously, we can see that his expected assists per 90 and his assists per 90 have remained kind of the same, and 0.14 expected assists per 90, and his actual assists per 90 has been 0.17. So there's nothing new there, but what is kind of new is he's starting to bring reality to all of that expected data with that performance against Leicester. Previously he had an expected goals per 90 of 0.41. And now his actual goals per 90, stuff that he's actually producing, is 0.51 goals per game. So with that hat trick, he's currently on like a goal every other game at the moment, and that's amazing because one, he's a midfielder, and so he's going to be getting the extra goal for the points. And so yeah, definitely keep our eye on HeungMin Son going forward. I think he's a great asset to own. We know that he's also a very streaky player towards. Did you happen to own Son at any point last season, Chazza?
I owned him for a little bit when Spurs had COVID postponements. I got a couple goals out of him, but not as much as I would have preferred if I had him during the end part of last season, which I never did. So,
yeah,
not really on the right end of FPL fairy tales these days.
Oh yeah,
but that's why I'm here to help. I mean, if you want to have a horror show, come listen to me. No worries at all.
Yeah, I was on the receiving end of that horror show last season. I went Harry Kane over Son because I thought they could just cover each other, and Son just went on an absolute mad run. The only thing that is a concern for HeungMin Son here, so his expected minutes for the game week were about 79, there or thereabouts. But there was also a lot of rumours going around that he could be benched. And the reality of what he played was 31 minutes. So this player is one of those that what these stats are showing us here is that if his minutes can be nailed on and his fixtures are turning, which they are, we know that he can be a very streaky player and he could get some major returns. And so, Chazza, you brought him out of your team. Is there any chance you're going to be bringing him back in?
Not straight away, because you wouldn't transfer someone out who's had 2 assists and one of the greatest assist machines in the Premier League within half a decade. Like, that's just not right. So the jury's still out on me, and I wouldn't bring out Haaland. I feel 3 premiums would be inadequate. If I wanted to bring him back in, I'd activate the wild card. And we'll get to be a wild card thing. I don't think this is the right show for it, but it will come at a future show. Should we do a Game Week 9 preview stream?
Yeah, okay. Well,
not at the moment. I just feel it would be too knee-jerk if you bring back in a player who you already transferred out.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely one to watch for sure. So the next player, cue the theme song for him, Chazza.
Saliba.
Oh, love it. Yeah, so another player on our watch list here. We've got some expected data and then the reality on the right. So here we've got a player who's, you can't see it there on the stream, where his expected minutes are just very high. He's really nailed down that spot in the team. And so his expected minutes are just not a concern at all. What we do want to focus on are the expected assists and the expected goals. He's a player right now who is really overperforming his expected goals. So he obviously scored that screamer a few weeks ago where he just absolutely finessed it into the far top corner. It was an absolutely delightful finish. And so his expected goals per 90 are around 0.4, 0.04, which is quite small. But the reality of the goals that he's getting is 0.29. So he's overperforming that by a good margin. So what that says to me is that he's taking his chances well. He's being clinical, and but also he's being allowed to go forward. We see him at set pieces going up for every single set piece, every single attack and set piece, and it also says to me that he's been quite a target. So if you don't own Saliba, then get on him. He's also overperforming his clean sheet chances. One of the things here, we got his clean sheet percent chance, and we've done some of the bookies odds to calculate that. And the chance that he was calculated to have a clean sheet was about 31.5% chance. That was the expectation, but the reality was that, again, he's got a clean sheet, and Arsenal again proven that they can be solid defensively under Mikel Arteta. Do you own Saliba, Chazza?
I mean, you clearly haven't paid attention to my game week stream, so I've certainly not owned him, but would love to, mainly for cultural and vibes reasons. But
yeah, I'm just
slowly coming across my radar. Maybe if I pivot wildcard, consider. However, Arsenal's favourable fixtures, 6 of the first 7, from what I know, were a green tick or silver. So only one difficult one, that was at Old Trafford. But congratulations. He's got the drum panel going. He's got his fans going. He's got festivals going. It's just Saliba festival time. That's how I see it.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, sorry, mate. I do know what your team is, but I am just rubbing it in your face a little bit. Sorry, because
it's good. I love it. I love Everton fans doing that.
Yeah, no, because it's about the only victory that Everton fans really get, to be honest. Well, I don't know. We might be turning things around. But anyway, the last player I want to highlight in our expectation versus
Izak. I love this guy.
Yeah. Is he on your radar, Chazza?
He is. I'll be very interested to see the route he would may come in is if Jesus goes out. But he's doing enough to stay in currently. Mitrovic just came in, so you've got to give him more time. And Haaland's, he's on another planet. Like, if we're on Earth, Haaland's taken up 6 planets right now. That's how I see it.
Well, I don't know what I've done here.
It's just ginormous. Don't worry, I can still read it.
Yeah. Sorry. And so one of the things about Izaka, as you've rightly pointed out, is how do you get to him? And with Jesus, his fixtures are turning. Maybe now's the time to say thank you for those returns, and maybe we can move to this guy. He's got some wonderful fixtures coming up.
It does.
And also his expected data is kind of I want to say reliable. So his expected assists are 0.06, and he doesn't have any assists at all, which is fair enough. He's a number 9. He's not looking to create. But the thing that I find so funny about his expected goals and his actual goals that he's scored per 90. So he's got an XG of 0.67, and then his goals per 90 is 0.67. So he's one of those players that is exactly matching his expected goals, which is pretty wild. I think it's one of those things where we can keep an eye on him and just maybe just put him in our teams. I think he could really tick over. The only thing that I do think is a concern, because his expected points aren't a concern at all. He was expected to get 5.1 points this week, and he delivered 9, so he's overperforming there. One of the things that is a concern for me is his expected minutes. So he was expected to get 72 minutes, but the reality is that he got 90. Now, I think one of the reasons why his expected minutes are so low is because Captain Weetabix legs himself, Callum Wilson, exists. And I do wonder if Callum Wilson was to become fit at some point, do we see Izak maybe moved out wide? Do we see him even being dropped to the bench? I don't know. Do you have any opinion on his expected minutes there, Chazza?
Well, the way I see the situation, I always refer back to the was it the taco commercial with a little girl, where the little girl says, "Why not try both?" So maybe Eddie Howe should try both and put both of them up top, create a 4-4-2 formation, put Saint Maximum on the
We
left.
could go full Mike Bassett and go 4-4-2.
Yeah,
yeah, that'd be brilliant. That would be brilliant.
oh.
And so yeah, that's it from the expectation versus reality.
Brilliant.
Section
Did you
there.
make these, Rev?
No, well, I gathered the stats together, and
Good stuff.
the
Jack made it.
wonderful Jack
The wonderful
made the
Jack.
graphics for us. He was brilliant. So just before we finish today, there are just a few assets to highlight, but before we move on to that, we've got Carol saying that maybe Izak is a wait and see to see how he plays with Wilson. You know, maybe that little "why not both" meme is in Eddie Howe's mind. But Eben, who is in the chat, is an actual Newcastle fan, and his opinion is that he will move over to the right when Wilson comes back, because Almiron is just a waste of a player at the moment. I've never known anyone, by the way, like Almiron to have such good pre-season form and then to just absolutely bin it when when it actually matters. So yeah, maybe we'll see Isak be moved over to the right. So maybe he's a wait and see for now, which is great. A few assets moving forward, and we can get rid of that graphic now. Assets that are moving forward. Cancelo, a player that I don't really like actually in terms of his expected data. I want my wing backs to be getting a bit more expected assists and a bit more expected goals, but Cancelo doesn't really need them because he's just a little bit of a bonus point magnet. He got 9 points and the clean sheet. Another player moving forward, if you guys want to get onto them, is Mings from Aston Villa. Managed 9 points, and Villa do have some really good fixtures going forward. They've got Leeds, Nottingham Forest, Fulham, and Brentford within their next 5. Asset number 3 is obviously Kevin De Bruyne, the Belgian international attacker midfield maestro. You got a bonus point again, as well as a brace of assists, so 10 points there. But if your budget isn't stretching so far as to the expensive heights of KDB, perhaps one of the midfielders that you could consider would be Ramsey from Villa. He got 10 points this week. He's got 3 bonus points. He got a goal. He got the clean sheet for 5.2 mil. Chazza, 5.2 mil. What more do you want? What more do you want?
Yeah, not a whole lot. I mean, Ramsey was a great finish.
Yeah, exactly. And so, as I highlighted before as well, Villa do have the fixtures going forward. So if you do want a couple of cheap enablers, maybe Mings and Ramsey could be just the pair of Villa players that you need going forward. And then the last one is a super obvious one, but Harry Kane. How many times have we seen him go goal and an assist in the game? And the reason why I'm particularly going to mention Harry Kane at the end of the pod today is that he plays against his favoured enemy in the next game week, which is Arsenal. He loves playing against Arsenal. And so, yeah, definitely, if you don't own him already, then we know he loves that London derby. We know he's going to be absolutely fired up for it, and he's going to be wanting to score. Yeah, Chaz.
And if you want to talk about terrorism, just talk about Harry Kane against Arsenal. Simple as that.
Yeah, exactly. He runs riot in those games. And so, yeah, that is all for us in the
yes.
FPL
come on, that
review.
is all. Come on, sorry, I'm just knackered. I've got to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'll try and keep you awake next time, Chazza.
You've done all right. You've done well today, man.
Oh, well, cheers, mate.
I liked my hosting duties. That lasted 45 seconds.
Yeah, no, I thought you smashed it, mate. You did really well. Well done.
Good.
Well
Good
done.
stuff.
Maybe you can do it for 50 seconds next time. We might let you.
See, that's a goal. It's just incrementally get it bigger.
Yeah, exactly. Baby steps. Baby steps.
That's right.
Yeah, but that's all from us. Keep an eye out on for updates on the FPL Addicts socials. If you haven't already, do hit that like button. It helps us out against the old evil algorithm. If you haven't already, do kick. like Nathan Collins, you can kick the subscribe button, or you could just click it and save your laptops or whatever. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. The link is in the caption below. But other than that, enjoy the international break, everyone. We will be back to provide you with more content for your Game Week 9 teams. Take care, everyone, and thank you, Chazza.
And peace out.